technology. And when I talk about technology, let me once again thank our presenting partner Infor for their support to the town hall. Let me call upon the panelists to discuss leveraging digital logistics and big data for logistics strategy profitability. I would like to invite on stage Sanjay Awasthi, Vice President Supply Chain, Valvoline, Amit Gera, National Logistics Manager from Reckitt Benckiser, Anirban Basu, Executive Director from Dalmia Bharat Group, Amrendra Singh, Logistics Operation Lead from Mondelez, Ramkesh Jangra, Head of Supply Chain from Ericsson, and I would request VS Girish, Executive Director from Institute of Supply Chain Management, to lead the discussion ahead. And request all the attendees to kindly type in your questions and send it to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaisal. Good afternoon, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure to welcome you.
Yeah, good.
And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Infor for backing us in this town hall. Let's straight get into what where the previous panel left off. We heard the previous panelists speak on vulnerabilities in the supply chain through logistics, and the consensus was that technology and digitalization are the way to go forward. If I could ask Anirban, sir, if you could start off by talking about the elements of digitalization and how you see this happening.
Thanks, Girish. I think, first of all, it is a pleasure connecting with each one of you, Dr. Rakesh and you and all the panelists. It's a great opportunity to share my thoughts on those digitalizations in the supply chain space. So when I look at it, I think, I heard about the first panelist, spoke about the vulnerability. Absolutely, this is something supply chain is completely vulnerable at this point of time, especially in the COVID situation, and uncertain times, and therefore it is important to build your digital strategy in line with your business plan, and also looking at your pandemic situations, right? Yeah. The way I look at it, I think, Girish, supply chain digitalizations in the recent times has to go hand in hand. You have to look at it in terms of your digital strategy, which is in line with your broad horizon of business plans, and then you accordingly work towards the same, right? In terms of digitalizations, the way I look at it, I think it is going to help a very strong way in terms of the continuous improvement and efficiency into the entire value chain, right? And therefore, the way I look at it, I think the timely adoption of the right technology will become a key differentiator in the market, right? Especially in the current situations, and it will continue for a few more years. We don't know. This kind of situation may come in the long run as well, right? So if I had to look at the key success criteria in terms of digitalization, would be to look at on three things, which I will talk about through the panel in terms of the three elements, which is on speed, efficiency, visibility. These are the three elements on the customer side. Now, on a broad horizon, what are those elements? Now, coming to your points on your elements of digitalization into a supply chain. The first and foremost will be the integrated business planning, the entire planning, right? How robust your planning process is the key, right? Okay. How does your front end and the back end are well integrated? So that's something which you would like to see. Some of them are, calling it as a IBP, some of them calling it as a SNOP process. But this is something very important, how to collaborate among the stakeholders within your value chain, right? Yeah. And we also, during this COVID and a pandemic situation, we have seen personally, being benefit out of this, right? We've been working every day using this platform, with the sales, marketing, manufacturing, logistics, to ensure that how this difficult period are being tied over with this, all those efforts being put in, right? That's number one. So the planning is very important with the execution. The second, in terms of the entire logistics visibility, the track and trace. I heard about the first panel, somebody spoke about the entire trace visibility of a product. This is very important. In our organization, also we started to use before the pandemic, and during the pandemic situation also, you've seen our benefit out of these things. The customer are now able to see our product flow from the bank end, from the time the order comes to the final delivery. So that's something is the key element during this particular digital supply chain. The third important, the procurement planning, both in terms of inbound and outbound, right? Inbound in terms of how effectively you collaborate within the suppliers, right? That's number one. And the second, in terms of your outbound transportation also, there could be a possibility of synergy between our inbound and outbound using the digital platform. That would going to be a key. Fourth one, in terms of the smart warehousing, some of the companies have already invested on the warehousing side. How well equipped your automation in terms of warehousing space, right? What kind of autonomous, the process that you can build into your warehousing. Gone are the days the way we used to work on the legacy, manual handling, no more is going to be a solution. You have to really adapt to those changes going forward. The fifth one, in terms of the prescriptive analytics into your through a control tower. The visibility of complete information, starting from your demand planning to supply to your product flow to your all lead and lag KPIs. So your time should more on spent on decision making, not on making your data points. So the control tower using the digitalizations would be a great enabler going forward. So in summary, Girish, I think the timely adoption of the right digital strategy in line with your customer expectation and business, which will create your improved visibility, transparency, and the speed of the response agility. So that's something I would like to share in the first time.
Oh, yes, yes. Thank you, sir. That was interesting. You brought out the larger elements of digitalization, how these things have to come together to create a viable digital strategy going forward. If I could now request Ramkesh. So we have heard speakers of the previous panel again speak on logistics policy for resilience and efficiency. And again, they have all touched on technology. But the crucial question that we now need to answer is, how do you use technology and how do we implement technology? How do you choose technology? So if you could kind of throw some light on that aspect, it will be an interesting take for our viewers.
Thanks, Girish. I think it's all game of change management. As technology keep on changing and keep on innovating, we are keep on getting new version of every technology, whether it is software, whether it is operating system, whether it is ERP. Time to time, we have to keep invest on it, and we have to keep upgrade ourselves along with the technologies to keep stay in the competitive business markets. As this game of change management, policies being external factor, organization have to implement them. And even if there is resistance within organization, technology help in updating our organizations. Mainly, if you talk about logistics, then all documents which are required in logistics are being handled by ERP. If we update the ERP, then we can get updated or upgraded policy, purchase order, order acknowledgement, invoices, various forms, e-way bills, HWB, POD, and payment process, and digital tools as per policy is out our operation. A recent example is FASTag or toll payments. Government decide that all payment has to do by through digital process. We will not accept cash, and if you will pay the cash, then that amount will be doubled. Then in transportation, you can imagine where one truck move from north to east, it toll cost around 25,000 rupees. And if you are paying it cash, then amount will be double. It's a big saving. Then suddenly in very short amount of time, entire transport industry adopted the FASTag, the new method of digital payments. Similarly, on all ports, the duty online payment system adopted, and that new technology adopted by the industry, and they benefit, and now they are reaping the fruits of digitalization themselves, eliminating various waste and corruptions, internal corruption and wastages, and timely tracking of the vehicles also, that all vehicles are moving on planned route only. They are not diverting through shortcuts or long cuts. To do all the change management, every organization need to have one change management driver and structure, resource and funds to implement new technology, and frequent and transparent communication, which has talk about coming changes of the technology and the process and business rationale behind it, and participation or of employee to implement new technology is must, and a repeated program of training in every organization will help up to manage the change very effectively and adopting new technology, which, as I said, keep on coming time to time. Thanks, Girish.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, it is a question of change management, and that is something that a lot of us need to learn how to master change management.
Yes.
And once we master that, probably we'll be able to do these things in a much easier way. If I could now go across to Amrendra. Ramkesh spoke about the internal requirements and technology, etc. Just from an internal perspective. But a larger part of our supply chain is essentially external to us, and therefore, how can you manage suppliers and customer relations? Because everyone spoke about customer experience, customer relationship. I think what we did not speak about also is that there is, like customer experience, there's a supplier experience, which also needs to be excellent. If you're going to do this, how can we use technology to manage these two aspects of supply chain to build in resilience to it?
Thanks, Girish, for the question, and I hope I am audible.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, okay. And thanks, Anirban and Ramkesh, for sharing their valuable insights also on the forum. I would start by saying that these are uncertain times, but the basic tenets of supply chain of delivering the goods at right place at the right time and in the right form and shape still remains the same. I would say that what is changing is the major difference. What we see is with the advent of more of e-commerce and hyperlocal players and other such omni solutions or models coming into play, the right time is the only factor which has changed in a big way, and the expectations from the customers as well as the consumers have gone up a big way. For something like us, we are the suppliers for some of the customers who in turn take the consumer goods or buy the consumer goods. But the same applies to us. So whatever I'm talking about, it'll apply both from the supplier point of view as well as from the consumer or the customer point of view as well. So what was good from a delivery probably a few years earlier is not so good anymore. And what we see is that if we look at one such metrics, which is around the customer service, it's the on time in full. So what has happened is the in full still remains the same. And in terms of customer satisfaction, consumer centricity, the in full part still remains the same. But then the on time has majorly changed, wherein the customers are expecting a far better service and far better lead time now in these days. And the window around delivery is also shrinking with the COVID situation, with the pandemic. What we see is that all our warehouses are not operational throughout the month. There are certain pockets wherein the delivery window is also small. So all in all, how to balance the entire thing so that we provide the right kind of customer service. And digital is obviously helping us, as well as it's kind of a big initiative which will help the overall process to improve our revenues and for any organization to reduce the cost. So these are two aspects along with the customer service part which needs to be taken into account when we are building on any kind of digital solution, and to be a much more resilient supply chain which is much more customer centric. So what are the levers? And I believe Anirban spoke about some of the aspects. So I'll touch upon what are the, in terms of the levers. One is the planning cycle. So obviously with the pandemic and with the demand being volatile, what we see is that what we need to do is that we need to move from demand planning to a more of a demand sensing thing. And what we require is a fast planning. By fast, I mean frequently reviewed, agile, scenario based, and technology enabled. So that's the planning cycle which we need to move into, and obviously sensing the customer and consumer data to provide them the best of services, something which we need to look into. The second part again, which is common across themes, is obviously with looking at the digital solutions, we need to have end-to-end visibility and it needs to be cutting across the entire value chain, with whether it's planning, whether it's sourcing, whether it's the manufacturing, or whether it's the delivery part. So end-to-end visibility around the entire processes as well as the entire goods and information flow should be there, which becomes kind of a single source of truth for providing visibility. And also what happens is that it kind of gives us a better kind of a visibility to our customers and consumer as well. So that's the second part, or of the levers which we think when we are implementing any kind of digital solution and being much more customer centric. The third part is how do we create a risk management template for the future. So what we have seen is that we are seeing risk of multiple types, bit being war, natural disaster, strikes, malware attacks, policy changes. So all these are risks, and we are living in a VUCA world. So these risks will continue. What we need to do is that we need to monitor these risks and then build on our mitigation plan around these risks. So what is required and where digital could really help us is, I think, in terms of performance management, both from supplier and point of view, also as well as from the due diligence point of view, there are a lot many things wherein we could use the technology part and we can use the digital aspects. Second and most important point is the network. What we see or what we heard in the previous panel also is that network is something which is right now coming as a savior as well. So if you have a good network wherein you have multiple warehouses, then obviously that one warehouse closes down, then the other comes into the rescue of the other one, and the service is not disrupted. So that's again a thing which is going to help, and some kind of digital solution or the networking solution wherein we could come at a consensus in terms of what is the optimal network in light of the pandemic or in light of any of the future risks that we see. So all in all, the focus through digital and technology or automation should be to solve real life problems which add value to the entire customer service part, and not to have any fancy dashboards which are of limited use. So I'll conclude that by saying.
Yeah, interesting. Yes, that's something that sometimes in technology we keep forgetting that technology has to help business, and your business is not technology. That's something that we keep forgetting, and we need to bring in the appropriate technology which will help us solve problems. And technology is supposed to solve problems. It is not supposed to be by a standalone glorified function within itself, as what today we are reducing it to. Coming to you, Sanjay sir, there's an explosion of data across the logistics chain. Today we have, thanks to IoT and things like that, we have devices giving us so much of data that earlier on itself, McKinsey report said that only 5% of the data was being used. I don't know what that percentage today would be. If we were to look at it from that perspective, how can we leverage data for better efficiencies? Because I think at the end of the day, that becomes our weakest point.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'll do, I'll just build on what everybody talked about, and I'll try to not to repeat those things. So let's talk about big data. Why we need big data? If we start from there, so is it to improve the overall efficiency, to remain competitive, or to bring agility? So while these all are quite right answers are relevant, but I strongly believe there is a bigger trigger, that trigger is what? There's a huge shift in the customer expectation and behavior, the way it used to happen in past and how it is happening now. So now customer needs a complete transparency in a transportation logistics. They want to know how this goods is moving and when this will be coming. So this is a huge shift in the expectation, and that is where there is a need for the big data. And good thing is that in logistics we have a lot of data, and that is what, if we take all together, we'll be able to provide a useful solution to a customer. So now that supply chain, to build on that, as you told, there is a lot of data, and it's a gold mine, I'll say. and we have structured and unstructured data. So it becomes quite natural that IoT, artificial intelligence, or blockchain, or machine learning, and those all technology are to be considered as a key driver for the digital transformation of logistics. You know, there was recently one survey done, and I'm talking this top 1,000 Fortune companies, and there was a question around that what kind of work they are doing for the future. And you know, 91% companies responded that they are working on a big data or artificial intelligence, and they say that this investment is important to remain relevant, to remain competitive, and to remain agile. So this is it's not like you or me. Most of the companies are thinking about that and they're working. Now we could be at a different level. That is a different thing. So so there is a need, definite need, and everybody recognize the importance of big data, and most of the companies are working on that. So obviously, so built on that, we need to have a digital capability. And when we say digital capability, it's all across. As it was mentioned in one of the panel, in our panel too, we need a complete visibility right from the, they want to see the how orders are getting executed, then complete inventory visibility end to end, and then once you do the dispatch, then how this entire goods is moving. So this is a complete end to end visibility. That is what is expected. So it's not like that this was not known to everyone. This was very much known, and but still probably we were seeing this is important, may be urgent, may not be urgent, but here it comes a COVID or this pandemic. I think this entire thing, this is what has pushed us very hard to get into this big data, and everybody started thinking about that, everybody started investing about that. Now coming back to this how we can use this data. So I'll talk in a very brief. So obviously first comes to customer satisfaction and visibility. So this is something we have talked in a larger detail. So this is all about the real-time tracker. Second, it talks about to reduce the inventory gaps. So you know, now there is a concept of smart warehouse which has come. And in a smart warehouse, you are able to see the inventory from the various sources, and you can reduce the gap of inventory. Then real-time route optimization. So this is another thing, and probably this has been talked in earlier, so I'll just skip on that. This is all talked about the dynamic routing. So what are things we have done? Let me talk about a few things which we have implemented in our company. We started from the secondary transportation. And obviously it comes from the one of the expectation from the customer. They want to see the complete visibility. And when we started, it was a huge success actually. This is a customer delight, I'll say. Good thing is that there is a complete visibility all across. Logistic guys are aware, our partners are aware, transporter is aware, customer is aware. So where and what is happening. Second is that we have put a few of the manual processes into automation. Many of the companies would have done WMS, and TMS is a known thing, which is a good amount of automation in warehousing and transportation. Other thing was like this e-way bill, GRN, the LR generation, and those kind of stuff, which you know, this transport babu used to sit in a dispatch, you know, one corner and keep on cutting those LRs and all. Now those are digital actually. That is another thing which we could able to do that. E-way bill got automated because there is earlier there used to be error, and then you know your vehicle will get stuck on the way, and then you know, there is a firefighting. You have to leave everything and make sure that vehicle has to move. So those all things are no more like that. There are you know, all the agreements are part of this digital, so you get a timely alert, because when you have multiple warehouses, multiple agreement, multiple partners, you never know when is falling what. So at least you should have some alert by which you come to know when to renew what. So there are a few things where we use this data. It's too smaller thing on if we compare on a big data, but definitely there is a case for big data.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay. That was interesting. In fact, you know, quite often we get so taken in by the term big data, we forget that we start small and we keep implementing, and as we keep our confidence increases, we'll be able to use that much better. Amit, if I could come back to you from this aspect and get a little bit more into some of those, what I call it as out there technologies. We have heard of them all. We have heard of, today, you go to any conference today, it's a digital twin that they are talking about, though technically it should be a digital thread, not a twin when it comes to supply chain. We talk about IoTs, blockchains, and then we also talk about predictive analytics, AIML. How do you think these things would integrate to create better resilience within our logistics as a function, and how can we harness these technologies?
Thanks, Girish. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thanks. So I think first is that with the discussion that we are having with each one of us, I think we align and agree to a fact that technological interventions and technological solutions are required. It's a must in our supply chain these days. I mean, it's not related to only pre-COVID, post-COVID discussions, but as such also technology intervention is required. Now the question, and also very, very valid point which was picked up by Anirban during his view, is timely adoption of the right technology. So we also need to adopt the technology in the very, very right time, so we are competitive. The question is which technology, which is the right technology, and also a question is whether we really need technology or not. We need to really think about it. I mean, it's not that because these are buzzwords in the market, technology, AI, ML, predictive analysis, and we should just run after them. We really need to sit and think that, do these technologies add value to our business, to our organizations, to the entire ecosystem, I mean the overall supply chain, including our suppliers and customers. Then I would say that I go through a framework. I mean, any technology, any investment that we need to make should also run through a series of filters. We need to really answer this question: is it helping me improve service levels? Is it helping me improve customer satisfaction for my customers? Is it reducing my cost? Is it increasing my productivity and efficiency? Or is it bringing in more controls and compliance to my way of working and for my organization, for my business? So at least I should get one or more benefits through these filters by this technological intervention. And then I see, yes, there is some sense in making these interventions in my business, because it comes with a change management, of course. Now, you mentioned a couple of technology like AI, ML, predictive analysis, IoTs, and I also heard Amrendra also saying that we all understand it is the need of the hour that information across the supply chain has to be accessible and visible and transparent to everyone. But let's think about it. If this information gets hacked, if this information gets tampered, if this information is lost, just as an example, during the COVID situation, when this COVID situation started, everyone wanted hand sanitizers, everyone wanted hand wash, because of the health and the hygiene practices. And now today we see significant jump in number of manufacturers of hand sanitizer. Do we really trust everyone? Do we really think the product that you're going to buy from the market is actually the right product, is genuine product? How do we say that the information which flows into the supply chain, the product is traceable back to the manufacturer, the information is right? So yes, I 100% agree that the information has to be visible across supply chain, but I also understand the fact that this information has to be secured, and that's where I'm coming to your point of blockchains. So why do we actually say blockchains are an important topic of discussion these days? We understand that blockchains gives us a platform, a technology platform, wherein the information is safely secured, transparent, accessible, and it reduces the chances of counterfeit. I mean, you imagine a vehicle which is transporting wooden pallets to our warehouse. What would be our KPIs and our parameters to evaluate? We should get that delivery in time. The damage should not be there. Imagine the same vehicle which is carrying a life-saving drug or vaccine. Do we really say that the parameters will be same? The on-time delivery and damage should not be? No. I mean, the information should not be lost. Temperature control, temperature data monitoring, humidity monitoring, the originality of the product. I mean, there are a lot of parameters that get added, because then it depends on the industry that you're working for. But it also depends on the complexity. So what I'm trying to say is there are certain filters which we have to go through. to actually finally decide whether we really need this technology solution, how complex my business operation is. I mean, I hear someone from the panel also saying WMS and TMS solution. And we can very well imagine the kind of warehousing and the size of warehouses that we had pre-GST. Let's take pre-GST. We can really run our operations with a in-house or a simple WMS system or a TMS system. Now, imagine the situation post-GST. The volumes have increased, the size of the DCs have increased because of consolidation and things like that. Now, with tens of thousands of pallet positions or thousands of pallet positions in the warehouse, a simple WMS solution may still run the operations, but it is really effective, or we need some other digital or a technological solution. So Internet of Things to manage inventory management, where I come, I mean, you also mentioned about Internet of Things, IoTs. I mean, there are multiple options now available. We have not used it. I've not seen people using it, but yes, these are really, really good platforms to think about. I mean, pick by light, pick by voice, because the warehouse sizes have increased, the inventory levels have increased, and we also face this challenge post GST in our supply chain, because the size of warehouses have increased, and that could be situation across industry for all the leaders that work on ground. The volumes have increased, and now when we have to go through the inventory count, well, we really need a technological step change solution here, because we don't want to stop our operations for such big warehouses to do an inventory count and just wait for the operations to be stopped and then complete everything, do everything in the system, corrections, everything, and then we resume our operations. We don't want to do that because of the increased sizes. So there comes, I was actually discussing with a lot of people on image processing. You know, something like you process the image of your products, do a quick round, maybe through a drone or something, and that does the rest of the technology does the solution for you. It processes the image, it transfers the data, does the correction, does the count for you. I mean, these kind of things I really believe. And then you also touched upon, I think, AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, predictive analysis. I was going through one of the articles from one of the e-commerce companies, because you know they are really consumer centric. They do this predictive analysis. I mean, they really make use of this predictive analysis in terms of what we call is that anticipatory shipment. How do they actually make use of the data? I mean, Sanjay was talking about big data, and there's a humongous data that is available with us. How do we actually make use of that data to make really, really quick and decisions which really turns around the profitability for the organization? I mean, these companies have really got the customer data, our ordering pattern, our frequency of our orders. What do we actually want to order? And they use this data, they process this data through this analytical skill, and rather than waiting for an order from a customer to come, they anticipate the order, this is the customer expectation, this is the order pattern, the SKUs that they order, and they generate an order. They ship the order. I mean, this is a plan. This is implemented across e-commerce industry. They anticipate the order, they anticipate the shipment, they ship the order. The order waits across the supply chain before the customer. And just imagine you being a customer or I being a consumer. I mean, we are receiving an order from an e-commerce company where we frequently keep ordering, and the order elements are whatever we actually need. I mean, it gives delight to me because I don't have to invest my time. I mean, it's kind of outsourced to an algorithm. They are taking care of my expectations, my ordering pattern. And if it comes to me and on top of it, if I get to know they have generated that order, this is my expectation at the time when the discounts were high, when the promotional offers were, it adds to my delight. I mean, I will never refuse that order. So this is what they are using. They're making use of the predictive analysis. I mean, I've seen these things now coming up very, very fast, and people are making use of it. But yes, I still go back to my firm framework, which I really believe that before taking any decision, I have to go through these filters. Does it add any value? Does it add to the customer satisfaction? Does it reduce my cost? Does it add productivity? Or does it bring more compliance? Yeah, that's my.
Thank you, Amit. That was interesting because yes, at the end of the day, when you talk about predictive analytics, it's being able to anticipate. And today we're all talking about pulling the products through the. Okay, this goes to the push part of it, where the supply chain anticipates and keeps it ready at the right node for the customer to come and pick up. That's very interesting. I think we also we are almost at the end of our time, and I think we now will look at one or two questions from the audience. This one, Pankaj Dani, who has asked a question about tracking of consignments, and he says that companies have not been able to implement tracking of shipments, though there are platforms available, primarily because all the ecosystem players are not on that platform. How can we make sure that everyone is on a tracking platform so that we can ensure that visibility. Even if one player of the ecosystem stays outside the platform, it will be a disaster. So if any one of you would
If
like
I
to
may
go
take the
for it.
question,
Yeah,
Girish.
Amrendra, go ahead. Yeah.
See, the technology around track and trace has been there for quite some time, and in
Yes.
our organization also we have been using some different models, some different things, and obviously the challenge remains that the API integration with vendors, different vendors having different kind of platforms for the track and trace is very difficult, and you're not able to see all data at one go, and that's kind of very difficult in integrating, and that's the challenge which we had also. So what we in turn did was that we kind of found out although it's still not a very cost efficient solution, but at least from the compliance point of view, because we also deal in products which are temperature sensitive. Hence, what we wanted was that throughout the value chain, we need to have the temperature visibility. And what we did is that we kind of had one solution wherein the IoT based devices were put in place in all our trucks, right from primary to secondary, and these were our own vendor deployed devices. So we found a solution provider who gave us these devices, and then the entire track and trace bit became much more simpler and much more efficient, because we were just dealing with one vendor and one solution provider who was able to give us all the kind of right inputs which were required for the entire visibility in terms of the track and trace part. So that's one approach you can adopt in terms of this thing. Having said that, it's not very easy, because obviously you deal with a number of vendors, number of different transporters, service providers. So it's not very difficult, very easy to implement. But yeah, if the products are sensitive, and if you need to have a robust control, I think this is one way to go forward.
Thank you, Amrendra. Yes, sir.
Even the point, just 20 seconds, Girish, how to use this platform for being, collaborate with the other partners of the corporations. We should not use this platform for more of a visibility. How to attract the believers of the fleets into this visibility of your tracking system, and therefore being competitive into your value chain. So that's something which is going to key. A lot of companies have started using in terms of being a collaborative platform. Looking at all the companies, and supposing there are trucks which fleets are available in one pocket in Bombay, how do you attract the market, the fleets of other companies, and therefore going to be a competitive in this space? That's the key going forward.
Yes. I think I'll just have one question before we wrap up. It essentially is a very simple question asked by a gentleman called Sudipta. He said that at a time like this, when margins are under pressure, will companies still want to invest in technology? Yes, sir.
I can take it.
Sorry.
See, this is a continuous process. Even he himself would not like to have Windows 1 or Windows 2 laptop, or say 2G phone, or say manual attache key. This, with the time, we have to develop and we have to adopt technology. Otherwise, we will phase out.
I think I have a viewpoint here, because really should not see that investing in technology is increasing our cost. I mean, I was giving an example of blockchain. I mean, in health and the pharma industry, just imagine if something goes wrong. I mean, in terms of compliance, and you don't have any solution to trace back your product because you invest into technology. I mean, you are wiped out completely. It's not about increasing costs. It's actually about giving a safe layer to your business. We should think of technology intervention. I mean, in those terms.
I think that is the core which.
So, and just to add on, basically, you'll not be doing complete transformation in one shot. It's not easy, and you can't do that, because you might be ready, but your partners are not ready, market is not ready, and the country itself may not be. So you have to start from some. Actually, there's similar kind of debate we had internally, and some point of time, when you meet everyone, he talks about the same thing. under this circumstance can we invest? You're right. Everybody knows that all the capex are deferred. Everybody is aware about that. No capex, probably unless it's like life critical kind of capex. So you have to start from some place. And out which is a helpful area within the supply chain or logistics, pick up that and start with that, and probably that will give a lot of learning also. And before we jump into all those big say like I have to mention about this artificial intelligence, machine learning and so on, all these things are there, but these are all destinations, but you need to take a first step.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's been fantastic having you. I think we are completely out of time here. And I thank each one of you, Amit, Amrendra, Ramkesh, Anirban, and Sanjay, for having taken your time off, and not only today, but also in between when we had our discussions on what we would be talking about. So it's been nice having you here. And it's been an interesting perspective we have had. At least we have had a very practical and a perspective that comes across as saying that, yes, we need technology, but we need to have those steps very clearly defined, and we need to understand that technology is not a route, but it's a process. It's something that you aid towards going towards your goals. So set your goals right, use it for your business, and don't look at technology as a pure cost center, but more as an efficiency enhancer, or in some cases like in the pharmaceutical or in the food industry, it could even become sustainable for the business to sustain itself. Though today sustainable is always talked about as green, for profit and continued profitability of the business also, technology could be a very, very necessary part of the whole process. I thank you all for taking time off. I thank you for your views. We will be carrying such discussions on future. We would look forward to your support as always in the future. Thank you very much, and thank you Infor again once again. And Jason, it's over to you.